This is Nifty Culture. I'm Pio, and this evening I have the pleasure of speaking with I'll say multidisciplinary artist, NFT, collectibles artist extraordinaire, and we're going to get into that. But one of my personal favorite artists that I've collected in the NFT space, Mr. Tom Yoo. How's it going, Tom?
What's up, Yo? Glad to be on finally. Glad to have the top spot in your collection as far as the quantity wise. I'm looking forward to it.
My pleasure, man. I'm excited to have you on. And yeah, that top spot is, it's even getting more secure because I just added another piece. I added I don't remember the name, the one with the sneakers on the electricity line to my collection recently.
Ethereal. Yeah, for sure. That's one of my favorite
Ethereal.
pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had my eye on it, man. I sniped it at 600. I don't know what it was doing, or my partner Mike sniped it at that and gave it to me. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was doing at that price point because then immediately someone else bought it at 1100. So it's on the up and up.
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, man. It seems to be fluctuating like as with everything these days in the NFT market. But more power to you if you got it at a good price.
Absolutely, man. So to give people some context, right, you've been releasing NFTs for a while now. I think you were the third artist ever to release an NFT on Nifty Gateway. Is that right?
I think it was like the fourth drop or something like that. Yeah. So super early on for sure.
Yep. And that was early 2020, right?
Early 2020. The kind of the backstory to that, Nifty Gateway hadn't launched yet. I had no idea what an NFT was. And so a couple months before that early drop, they reached out to me. They emailed me. I think it was Tommy Kimmelman. He was like, hey, I'm with this company called Nifty Gateway. We're looking to launch this blah, 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 blah. We are an exchange that sells NFTs. And I was like, I was almost going to delete the email because I was like, this just sounds like another one of these junk mails that I get every once in a while from people. And I kind of did my research and I looked into what NFTs were. I knew what Bitcoin was, but I had very little knowledge about crypto in general at that point and the blockchain. And, unless you were really into it, not a lot of people just in the common space, especially artists, I think were aware of it at the time. And so I saw that it was backed by the Winklevoss twins. And I'm like, it can't be a scam because at least they're involved. So I was like, let's do it, whatever. I mean, I'm open. And so that was about a couple months before they launched. And they were basically telling me that when they were looking for investors for the company, they were pitching it as, okay, well, think of it as Air Jordans, digital Air Jordans. And I guess that's how they were trying to get it to relate to investors who had no idea what an NFT was. And so I think in their mind, they were like, hey, why don't we just find somebody? Or maybe they came across my stuff and realized, hey, this is the actual thing that we're talking about. So then they reached out. We struck a deal, and yeah, that first launch came out, and it did well considering what sales were at the time. And I think I broke the record at the time, and obviously there was only like a few artists there, but I want to say that because obviously people came along and cleaned up after that as well. But I want to say for a little bit of a short period of time, I held the record for the highest sales amount for Nifty Gateway.
Breaking records, Tom. I love it. That's what I like to hear.
I'm doing it.
And that anecdote, that sort of, digital Air Jordan comment, I think is so relevant for some of the stuff that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So I definitely want to hold on to that. When we're talking about your work, right? Like I personally, in my opinion, I think that your work is so original, not just for the NFT space, but really for any space. So can you talk to us about like your creative beginnings and just give people context on like how you got to, making sneakers with Legos, among the other work that we're going to talk about?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I for some of you who do know my history, I didn't start off in art. I was in finance. I was an investment banker, private equity. That's what I graduated and went into my initial career. Did that for about 5 years, and I realized this is not my life passion. I was doing well financially, but I realized, hey, I'm not going to become the next hedge fund CEO or anything like that. So I decided to try to go to a different route. My parents, who are first generation immigrants from Korea, they were always very entrepreneurial. And my dad always ran a business here and there doing things. So I was like, hey, maybe I can start my own business. Maybe I can be a restaurateur. So I became a franchisee of a restaurant, a gourmet burger restaurant. And my wife and I, we started that up. We opened up 3 restaurants eventually in San Diego, and that's a hard business. Anybody who knows the restaurant business knows it's not an easy grind, especially if you're trying to run multiple locations. So at the end of the day, it didn't work out. And it's around that time when I was trying to figure out it's the creative outlet, because I was working 100-hour weeks at the restaurant, bouncing in between the 3 restaurants like 7 days a week. And so, and I started writing, and then on the side, I just started, doing something that I always loved to do, which is like sketching and doing visual art. And long story short, there was a Christmas party I went to with one of my wife's friends, and she had they had a white elephant gift exchange. And so for those who don't know, you don't buy anything, you bring something that's from your house that you don't want to get rid of, maybe it's funny, you think it's a joke. So this person brought like a Back to the Future DeLorean Lego set, and I loved Back to the Future, and it was one of my favorite movies. Everybody was like shitting on the. Can I say shitting on the gifts? Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah. Everybody's shitting on the gift. I loved it. I took it home, and then the next day I saw on the box that it was designed by a regular guy from Japan, like an average Joe who got like 10,000 votes on Lego's website, and that's how they decided to make this kit. So that just got my wheels turning. Like, oh my God, what do I love that I've never seen before in Lego form? And instantly, Air Jordans came to my mind, and I grew up from 1989, from my first pair of Jordans till now, just being a sneakerhead. And so for the next few months, Lego has this program on their website that they just give out for free. That it's just a digital kind of builder that they give to kids so that they can make whatever creations they want. And so I just used that program, and for the next 3 months, just built my first Air Jordan 11. And once I finished creating that, I didn't have an Instagram. I didn't have a social media presence at all. And I was like, what, I'm just going to put it up on social media. I'll start this Instagram. And I did it on like a Tuesday night, and literally overnight it got picked up by like Hypebeast and Sneaker News and Complex, and it just went viral from there. So that's kind of the inception of me plus Legos plus sneakers, and then it kind of just continued to snowball from there. And obviously there was a few years before the NFTs got involved, but yeah, that's just kind of how it all kind of came to be.
Wow, what a story, man. A little bit of an overnight success for you right there, literally.
A
And
little
I
bit.
love Yeah, and I love how you said like you plus Legos plus Jordans, because this is the next thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is that, Legos are collectibles with a very, passionate collector base. Jordans and sneakers are absolutely, they absolutely fall into that category. And the fact that you said that Nifty Gateway was pitching investors as like digital Air Jordans, it just
Yeah.
speaks to it more. But I don't think that we've seen those collector bases
Yeah.
manifest in NFTs yet. I think they're still on the outside and they haven't
Yeah.
arrived yet. And so,
Yeah.
like, for me as a collector of your work, like, obviously your work's appreciated, but a lot of that just has to do with the price discovery of the NFT market, because some of your
Yeah.
early stuff was priced incredibly low, like, $30. Well, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
that's appreciated and everything. But when I
Yeah.
look at the other artists that have done well, they're obviously fantastic artists. But I look at your work and I think this is so uniquely built for NFTs.
Yeah.
Clearly the collectors just haven't arrived yet. Do you have any
Yeah.
insight into that? Like, have any like collectors reached out to you from the Lego space or the Jordan or sneakerhead space and expressed that they're getting into NFTs? I'd just be so curious to see if you had any insight into that part of it.
Yeah, that's a fabulous question that I am still trying to figure out the answer to. I think early on when, March came around and things were just exploding, I think people who were onto my work at the time were thinking, okay, this is going to be the time when the people from the hypebeasts of the world, the complexes of the world, those kinds of that market is going to shift over to NFTs, because now everyone knows what an NFT is, and they're going to jump onto Tom Yoo's work because it resonates with both cultures. And for some reason, I haven't seen that really happen. You're right; it's exactly what you're saying. I don't know what it is. I think it's still maybe an education piece. I think for those who are less just inclined to just be open to thinking about what an NFT is and what the value is, and how it is now changing the art world. I think for those who are not as open to taking that thought discovery, I think it's hard for them to still get over. And I think maybe that's where the majority of people are that traditionally have liked my work before my NFTs. So, I'm still trying to find how to bridge that gap. I think it's coming. I'm hopefully going to be one of the ones to help continue to do that. Um, I think also I want to say maybe the initial bust of a lot of these musicians and DJs who came through, who are big in those spaces, came over, and then I feel like they burned a lot of people. And so anybody that gave it a try at that time is now sitting at a big loss, and so they're not going to want to come back unless there's a huge reason why they want to. So I think maybe it's a combination of those different things that have just led to just a slow migration of these people that I think would be really into it but aren't so far.
I think they'll get here. I mean, I think it's safe to say that they will get here. It might take some time. And even if it takes more time, then you're just going to have this body of work that's like ripe for the
Yeah,
picking for them. And I haven't seen anybody else really doing either sneakers or Legos. So it's
yeah, yeah,
exciting to, you have the market cornered in a way.
yeah,
And at the same time, you're doing art that it's you. It's not like you're doing that because you think that's what's going to sell. It's you,
yeah.
from what I can tell, at least.
Yeah, and I really hope that the people that like yourself who are collecting, who support me and love my work, that in that way they will get some, I guess, reward and vindication when things do come and when the market does come in and things do change in that way. Because I think I want to be able to reward the people who have always been supportive. So that means a lot. That's a big part of my mission as an artist.
For sure, man. Well, I mean, people are going to have to deal with an obnoxious version of me because I have a YouTube channel here. So I'm going to just be screaming about it as soon as we get to that point. But
Appreciate it.
so, so I wanted to look at some of the work. So, this is your first collection on Nifty Gateway, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay. And so I want to show people like, what the work is and then also the development of the work over time. And I
Hmm.
think that any artist that is thinking, because, I've talked to artists in real life that do ceramics or
Yeah.
artists that do physical sculpture. And they're like, well, how am I going to make that an NFT? That's not digital or,
Yeah.
whatever. And so I wanted to understand, is this natively digital right here? Did you physically make the Lego? I'd love to hear some details about how this went from being in your head to an
Yeah.
NFT that someone can actually purchase.
Yeah, no, that's a great question as well. So that Lego program that I told you about, Lego Ideas, or not Lego, what is it called? Lego Digital Designer. Sorry, like I mentioned before, extremely rudimentary. But what's cool about that program is it's entirely digital, but you can take these files and basically render them using another kind of program. And so very early on, I was just using whatever I could download on the internet that was basically being able to translate these files from this form in this Lego program into something that's more like a traditional JPEG. And so, it took a while to find something that would realistically make something look like plastic and have the Lego logos on each stud and make it just something that looks almost like a real toy. And so that was a challenge early on because there wasn't an easy sure shot to take that file and translate it to something that would be rendered that looks really cool. But yeah, this is all digital at this point.
Awesome. And I think it works really well. And, we saw in this drop that you took that digital approach. And so this one actually does have some movement on it, right? So, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's not really an animation. That's literally me just rendering like, frame by frame by moving the logo and just doing that. So it's not any kind of sophisticated, program that's doing that. That's me just rendering one by one, frame by frame. That's why you see it's like it moves very slowly and it's not very seamless, but it was a start.
And that's cool though, because that's like stop motion, right? So even though this is digitally native, it's almost like you did it analog anyway.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
Okay. And then so I want to just show here the development, going from a drop like that to a more recent drop, but not the most recent drop, which is the one that I actually have one piece from the Hodl Me drop,
Yeah,
where now we have a little bit more sophisticated animation, but still
yeah.
in the spirit of how you operate. Can you talk about this piece at all?
Yeah, this is another one that like I mentioned before, I really love. This is an idea that I had for a long time. Uh, Deep meanings on all fronts, just from shoes on an electric pole or electric phone wire, and what that means in certain neighborhoods, and also just the shoe market in general, making a statement on like you would never see a pair of Air Jordan 1 Chicago's on a phone wire just because of the way that the shoe market is right now. So my statement on that. But just from a technical standpoint, at this time now, I moved into using Blender and just diving into animation and learning how to use these programs. Basically, spending hours in front of YouTube, just figuring out like how do I move this camera? Like, oh, okay, I can actually do that, and literally trial and error. Sometimes like sitting in front of my computer for hours, spending time figuring out something that I know is completely basic that somebody who has any knowledge would be able to fix in like 3 seconds. I was spending hours, and it was just a steep learning curve for me. And so I put this out. I was so proud of it because I thought that, oh man, it's moving, the animation's working. And then one of the first comments that I read is somebody was like, why is Tom Yoo's work always so like, stop and go? Why is it so, why is it so like not seamless? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't please everyone. I thought I was the shit. I thought this was it. But I soon figured, okay, oh, if I want to make something move slowly, then I have to add a lot more frames to make the animation a lot more seamless. So again, it was like, oh, all these things that I figured out afterwards that I was like, oh, if had I done it like that, it would have been perfect from the start. But at the same time, I'm a real believer that everything happens for a reason. And I think in some ways, to show the progression of my work, as you are pointing out, I think is also a lot more meaningful to the collectors and also for myself. So it's like a record of me and me knowing what I've had to do to kind of get to the places that I'm at any point in time.
Absolutely. I mean, ignore that hater, man. That's so funny that that this shows like people that are putting hateful comments, like they can affect someone when they put their heart and soul into the work. And I wouldn't change anything about this piece. This is my favorite one of your pieces that I have now. And as soon as I have a square digital, yeah, as soon as there's a square digital frame with with like a frame on it, it'll just be on my
Yeah.
wall and it's going to turn heads, man. You have like a party going on with this piece. People are going to ask questions about it. Like, come on.
That'd
Um,
be dope.
so so now moving on to the most recent drop, just
Mhm.
to kind of look at that progression, this explored a ton of new stuff that we haven't seen from you. I mean, we're going to
Yeah.
look at all these pieces, but check out this one, people in the audience. Tom, like, where do the ideas come from for this drop? Because there's a lot going on with these.
Yeah. This one was, one of my favorite pieces is I'm sorry, one of my favorite periods in art history is the Renaissance, and I love sculpture. If I could chisel marble like a G, I would do it because I think it's just some kind of physical like magic that happens when you can turn something that's just like a complete block and make it into a sculpture like this. So these kinds of works throughout our history have always been my favorite, and so I wanted to incorporate that with my style, but then fit it in with obviously my love of sneakers and my passion for the sneakerhead culture, and see if I can marry all these different things. And so I picked these certain sculptures that some of them that I've worked with before in my paintings and whatnot, and just kind of tried to find the right way to show them and depict them within the sneakerhead realm. And so this one, for example, this sculpture is called the Rape of the Sabine Women, and obviously the content is a little bit more like not so it's not so pleasant back in the day. But what it always looked like to me was like this woman was dunking on these guys, and especially this guy at the bottom is like holding his hand up, and I always envisioned that the blackboard was breaking and the glass was like coming on his face and he was trying to shield his face. So I did a painting of this a few years back, and I was like, well, let me try to revisit this sculpture and do it in 3D form, and then add all of the things that I couldn't add before when it was just a static painting. And so I think I was really proud how it came together. It was probably one of the pieces that took the longest for me to really just technically put together because there was just so much going on. But I really loved how it came together, and it really showed what I wanted to show. And obviously the shoe, for those who don't know, it's Air Jordan 1 Shattered Backboard. That's the name of the shoe. It was based off of a colorway of an Air Jordan. And when it was when MJ was playing, he was doing an exhibition game, and he actually broke the backboard. And the jersey he was wearing was orange and white and black, and so that's why they made this shoe. So then that's why I thought it was perfect to put this shoe on the sculpture, which I thought already looked like there was this woman dunking on these guys and breaking a backboard. Add the backboard, add the glass, and then we have kind of all the meanings coming together.
She's really posterizing them now that I'm looking at it, and the guy on the bottom is, like, looking like,
Yeah,
Shaq was on top or something.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I feel like sneakerheads, like, if they ever catch wind of a story like that, they'll appreciate it so much because in collector culture, especially with sneakers, it's all about, like, oh, and this is based on this one thing that happened, and
Yeah,
it happened that one time behind closed doors, and they made this signature shoe about it, limited edition. And I
yeah.
feel like you're speaking to people like that too. This is another one that I really like. What can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so again, I wanted to take a really famous sculpture, something that people knew, and just try to remix it in my style. I thought it would be perfect to do this version. And this is kind of like my shout out to the Nifty Gateway Discord. And there's a channel called Fun Talk that nobody ever goes on. It's just all basically people talking about Eminem and where is Eminem? Is Eminem here? When is he coming back? And then I just go down there and just say hello and hi and try to like change the subject, but it never gets changed. So I thought, you know what? This was a shoe that I've always wanted to feature, which is the Air Jordan 4 Eminem. One of the most popular shoes, most sought after, most expensive Jordan 4s. And I thought, okay, well, let me find the perfect sculpture to put this Air Jordan 4 Eminem on. I thought this would be the amazing way to show it in the Statue of David, obviously by Michelangelo. So I threw it on there, and obviously put the Eminem blonde hair to make it just that much more Eminem. Named it My Name Is, and kind of again my ode to this one channel, Fun Talk and Nifty Gateway Discord.
Shout out to Nifty Gateway Discord, and
Yeah.
we're going to talk more about this, but there's a lot of pop culture references in your work, even beyond beyond sneakers and beyond Legos, and we'll talk about them. But first, this is another one I really love. We could just talk about this, and then we'll move on to that.
Yeah, another famous sculpture that I wanted to kind of find a way to do in my style. This is another take on kind of my current view of the sneaker culture and the sneaker world. It's obviously become an enormous business, and I can't fault it for being what it is. But for somebody who really loves shoes and sometimes wants to get a pair of shoes that I wish I could get my hands on, but it's impossible to now because of what the secondary market has turned into, what bots have done, and resellers and all that. Kind of similar to maybe what's happening in the NFT space, but it's just my kind of take on that, and what I would think an ape looking at the shoe would be like, why is everybody going crazy over this kind of thing? So obviously, and it ties in with Bored Ape and that whole thing. And so I thought it would be perfect to just put a really coveted shoe, name it Bored, and have all these different meanings kind of collide into one picture.
Definitely layered and super cool. And so we saw you go from the static images with
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of stop motion type of stuff to now full
Mhm.
blown digital sculptures that are moving with a
Mhm.
much higher degree of complexity.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can kind of tease us with in terms of what direction you could see the work going and moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I want to continue to push the boundaries. Uh, you know, especially my last collection. I mentioned this on Instagram briefly on one of them, but I don't want to always be known as the Lego sneaker guy, even though that's kind of what has gotten me to where I am, and it pays the bills. And so there's always been a fear I've had to deviate from that path, because who knows if it'll sell, who knows how well it would do. And there's always that fear as an artist that I have, an insecurity personally that I had. So one of the pieces I did in the last job was to try to break away from that, to really get away from sneakers and eventually get away from Lego to do other things. And doesn't mean I'm going to completely abandon the mediums themselves and the content, but I want to challenge myself and to continue to do more. And so as you mentioned the question, as it relates to your question, I want to continue to push content, but also push the technical abilities I have and the things that I can't do. I want to make sure I want to try to learn how to do. And if it's really something that a vision I have that I really can't pull off, then try to bring aboard the right people to work with to kind of bring these other visions to fruition. Um, so I guess kind of that's a like a short answer to kind of where I would want to take things, hopefully in the future.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely looking forward to seeing it in whatever direction you go. And this goes in line with like that Eminem reference that you
Yeah,
had in that last piece. We've seen that reference. We've seen the Super
yeah,
Mario reference.
yeah,
We've seen like the New York City kind of like pigeon reference. It's almost like an ode to hip hop and
yeah,
like guys like Nas and stuff like that. Also,
yeah,
Back to the Future. There's a lot of
yeah,
pop culture references in your
yeah,
work. Do you see
yeah.
that continuing? And if so, like what should we look out for? What else are you what else are you going to throw at us?
That's a good question as well. Yeah, you know what? I can't make art about things that I don't care about. It's really not my thing, and I feel like very few artists do that. So these are all things that resonate with me personally, things that I'm really into, passionate about, that I feel like I can like have a intelligent conversation about as well. So I don't think that I'm going to try to go away from that kind of these cultural references that I think are really that touch me and make me want and inspire me. So for example, this is a piece called Jesus, and obviously the shoes that Mary's wearing are the Air Yeezy 2s, Red Octobers. um, Again, this is like another like pop culture reference. It's one of the most popular shoes, one of the most sought after, and you know Yeezus and Jesus sounded similar. So I thought it made sense, and it kind of worked out perfectly, in my opinion.
Definitely, man. This is a really classy one. I like it a lot. And my parents are immigrants from Italy, so if you're going to throw all
Oh,
this traditional like, Roman art from the Renaissance at me, I'm going to,
yeah,
just eat it up. So,
yeah,
definitely appreciate this one a lot.
sweet.
So, one part about the NFT space that I really love is that the digitally native nature of it and the collaborative, communicative nature of it because of tools like Discord and Twitter has
Yeah,
created it's created so much collaboration between artists. And I would
mhm,
imagine a lot of it is collaboration that otherwise may have not happened because you see
yeah,
artists from different mediums collaborating. And so I've been asking a lot of photographers because photography is definitely like historically an art form that's kind of done by yourself, or maybe a collaboration was done by two photographers, or maybe it got plugged into filmmaking, which is still photography in many ways, right?
yeah,
But now I'm excited at the prospect of, say, photographers collaborating with artists from other mediums. When I look at your work, it's exactly the same, right? Because it's so original, but you're in this space now. I'm wondering, have you explored the idea of collaborating with anyone, or can we expect any kind of collaboration like that between you and another artist in the NFT space?
yeah. I mean, one of the good things that has come out of this whole journey in the last couple of years is building relationships with these other artists and the community that we've been able to share and become friends and do all these things and conversations with and bounce ideas off of. And so, yeah, I've had a couple of talks with a few people. We haven't really pursued it to put pen to paper and make it happen yet, but I'm open, and I know that there are several people that have communicated an interest in working together, and it's just kind of trying to find that right project that would make sense for both artists. And so I'm still trying to figure that out, but I would love to work with somebody that I respect and a peer that I love their work, and so I definitely am looking for something like that, and I'm open to it for sure.
Awesome, man. We'll definitely keep an eye out for it, and we'll definitely be excited to see it. Before I let you go, like, is there anything you can tell us about what's coming next? Any future projects we should look out for, or just where we can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Tom Yoo 23, same Twitter handle as well. You know, Another thing that I'm really passionate about that I try to put out there as much as possible is, being a BIPOC artist and an Asian American artist. That's really important to me to continue to try to set an example and to make sure that, other younger artists have the ability to break through and to see that there are people ahead of them who are making a living and doing well. And so that's my next frontier. I'm trying to find, and I have a couple ideas of something that might be able to bridge my desire to continue to help BIPOC artists and open doors for them, and to meld that with my content. So far, everything I've mentioned before is very pop culture based. It's basketball based, and there's a certain level of depth that I know is not the super deepest of meanings. There are things that I feel like that look cool, but I also want to try to make sure that I find deeper messages and meanings, especially as it relates to my identity and those who look like me, and to try to help them, not only as an artist but as a person. So that's kind of what's next for me on the horizon. I think big picture, trying to find the right project, and that really, again, aligns who I am with what I want to show in my art, and so that there can be something that I can be proud of, and that I can kind of leave a legacy with.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll look out for it. Everyone, make sure you follow Tom on Twitter and Instagram at Tom Yoo 23. We'll make sure to put links in the description too, and look out for Tom's future work. Thanks so much for coming, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Bill.
See you, everyone.
All right.